different time zone, different location, brand new t-shirt. I am wearing a shirt with a raccoon that is having a vegan barbecue. And guess what? I met a couple in the United States in our Airbnb, and they told us stories about the different bears they have seen during their trip. And they called it wash bear. They didn't call it raccoon, they called it wash bear. And then they told me the story about a wash bear washing candied sugar and seeing it disappear in the water. Really disappointing, not only for the raccoon, as well as for the people who are watching. And I was surprised that they call it wash bear, because it sounds like a German has translated it word by word to English. So apparently this does exist. If not, let me know in the comments. This episode is fully packed with stuff, 18 different topics, most of them concerned about big brands, big announcements, and we have 2 crazy and funny news as well. Have fun. Welcome to the Pinot and Picture podcast episode number 188. 12 to go to our next anniversary. Today, the episode is fully packed, as I already told you, so we start directly into it with harvest time. And I mean, we talked about many countries and regions that have already started, and right now, Germany joined the game. August 19th, they kicked off the harvest in Germany in the Pfalz area, harvesting usually white grapes that are sitting lower in sugar, Solaris, for example. And today I talked to a fellow friend in Romania, Bogdan, if you're listening, hi. He told me that they already started harvesting as well in Romania, and they are a bit concerned, especially about the potential alcohol levels in the red wines, especially in the local one, Fetasca Alba, because right now it seems like they will end up in 17 to 18% of alcohol. Isn't that crazy? It was a really, really hot summer. I mean, depending on the region. I also talked to my friend Tommy in England, and he told me harvest will be quite fast this year because it was a very disappointing vintage. We had a lot of rain, and the mildew took what the frost and the poor flowering didn't take. On the opposite side, I recorded my podcast interview with Gießen yesterday, and they told me 2024 was a winemaker's dream. More about that in the upcoming episode with Gießen. So right now, we have so many countries already on the map with harvesting: Austria, Germany, Hungary. Everyone was a little bit earlier this year due to the weather conditions. But yeah, we will see how this all will pay out in the end and where the styles will end up, especially in alcohol and of course also in aroma and taste and in acidity. I told you that we will have some crazy news on this podcast, and the first one, I couldn't stop laughing. This video, I will put the link in the show notes, is from the official barrel race in Tuscany. And this barrel race has been organized for 18 years now, I guess. And I mean, I would just, while talking, I will press play and just let it run. You can hear the reporter. He's super crazy. The video is 11 minutes long. And those 11 minutes, it's like watching the Tour de France, yeah? Sometimes they have those drones filming the view from the sky down on the peloton. It's about 15 to 20 people. And basically, they are rolling a wine barrel in the streets of Montepulciano. It's always a couple, it's 2 people. And the fastest will win the prize. And this is 1.8 kilometers. And you even see some people really suffering during the race, but they have to stop the race because they really ran out of breath. They weren't able to breathe anymore. And in the end, they have a new record winner who has won this race for, I guess, 8 times now. So he's a quite experienced guy. And I guess it's quite challenging. And it's not only challenging, it's also quite dangerous, because every now and then you see them rolling the barrels up a mountain, a hill within the streets of Montepulciano, and it's quite narrow, and sometimes the barrels start like turning around and even endangering the people who are taking part in the competition. it's super fun, and in the end they end up at the central market in Montepulciano, and it's so much fun to watch, and it's such a crazy idea. Just to let you know, the barrels are empty. There is no wine in it, because otherwise that would mean that, because it's 500 liter barrels, you will have to transport around 600 kilos with two people, and I guess it's barely possible. So yeah, have fun with the video. I'll put the link in the show notes. The next crazy thing was an article about a winery that worked with a company called Skybox that is focused on fighting diseases in the vineyards. And what they did is they drone dropped wasps in South African vineyards to fight the leaf roll virus. If you don't know that, there is tiny mealybugs that are affecting wines until they die, actually. And wasps are known to fight those mealybugs, and what happens is they lay their eggs in the mealybug, and then the eggs are just like eat them from inside out. Basically, it's a bit weird, but it should work. So what they did is they worked with Skybox and they drone dropped the wasps in the vineyard, and right now they're waiting what will happen. I was a bit surprised when I read that, because I mean, one of the biggest threats besides birds are wasps, especially for your grapes. And right now, it would be really dangerous in the northern hemisphere to do that. But this happened in the southern hemisphere. And over there, it's winter. So there are no grapes. It's just to fight the leaf roll virus, and the wasp can do whatever they want. And when they're done, when they are full, I don't know, when there's nothing to eat anymore or to lay eggs in, they will probably leave. It's quite an interesting technology when you see that. They work with aerobatic supplies, and basically you have like tiny little bags, and the drone is carrying it, and then it opens up and the wasps are released to the vineyards. So quite interesting stuff. And I mean, it's cheaper, it's more sustainable than working with sprayings and stuff. And of course, when you have a look at the economic factor, it's also a big thing. So interesting move. And if you are interested in stuff like that, Skybox is working internationally. From one technical stuff to another one, there was an article in Mining is International. Social media is slightly losing influence in Germany. This article is focused on social media usage in Germany, and it's based on the Social Media Atlas 2024. This one is only available for people who pay for it. It's about 900 euro, but the main facts are summarized in that article. So basically what we can see, that there is a decline from 2023 to 2024 at almost every single platform. YouTube from 37 to 29%, Instagram from 33 to 29, and the others from 35 to 29. And the duration per week, per person, sits around 19 hours per week. That is almost 3 hours per day. So dumb scrolling is still there. And yeah, we all know what this makes with our resources, with our time, and also with our brain. And it's quite interesting. This is not focused on the wine industry. It's generally talking about social media influence and in different peer groups and in different age groups. And I'm still surprised. It is a fact that YouTube is one of the biggest platforms when it comes to social media. We always forget about it. Usually we talk about TikTok or Instagram and maybe Facebook, but actually YouTube is almost in every single age category the biggest one, except Gen Z. I was really surprised, because usually it's said to be more TikTok and Snapchat driven, but at least in Germany, Instagram is the biggest platform. But there is a decline. So right now people start being concerned if there is still the possibility to reach especially young customers through the social media platforms, or are they slowly getting away from the platforms? I don't think so, because usually, at the moment at least, it's part of society. And even compared to traditional media, most of us are already getting their news from platforms like that. And of course, from podcasts like this one. So it's still a thing. I mean, there is a decline, but this can also be the result of other factors. There is still a big market for influencers, for marketing, for advertising on social media. And please do not forget, I had this chat with a friend yesterday night. Social media is free. Of course, there is algorithms behind, and please never forget, especially Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, the algorithm basically is math. It's nothing else than just math. And if you want to be successful over there, you have to respect mathematics, the algorithm. meaning post every single day. Yeah, use the different content types, videos, images, stories, direct messages, everything, comment on other people's accounts. I mean, there's a big set of rules, but you have to follow the math. It's not about the, let's say, the visual part, because sometimes people say, oh, the feed is ugly. Nobody cares about the feed, guys. I mean, just to get an impression about the company, sure, but your feed is not important. The algorithm is. Keep that in mind. And if you are an influencer, this could be really interesting to have a look on the study. I put the link in the show notes. Another trend we're currently seeing is there's a decline in wine consumption, also per capita, and people are getting afraid. You can really feel this fear in the industry. I already had that at the wrap up of the Pro Wine, because there was this weird feeling that nobody's drinking alcohol anymore. We have to do something or we all lose our jobs. And I mean, we are talking about percentages. There is a decline, and I guess this will go on. I'm pretty sure it will. But it's not like you won't be there anymore. People will always drink wine, and at least me personally, I will never see 100% non-alcoholic world, I guess. But what people are currently doing is they have ideas how to try to get people back to wine. And we talked about this, wine raves and stuff. We will have that in a second as well. And right now, there is a movement called Come Over October. It's a bit like the opposite, but also quite similar to Sober October or Dry January. And the idea is it has been founded by 3 different wine business people, wine influencers in the United States. The idea is meet with each other, have social gatherings, and share a bottle or 2 of wine. But it's not about drinking and getting drunk or binge drinking. It's about drinking moderately, having a specific approach to wine enjoyment, to alcohol enjoyment. And basically, I like the idea. And what I really liked is it's not like black and white, yes or no. Not Sober October is strictly don't drink alcohol at all. And this is more inclusive. It's more about getting together, sharing a bottle. And if you don't want to drink alcohol, you can share a bottle of alcohol-free stuff. And I really like the idea. And the 3 people behind, they have the story on the website. I will put also this link in the show notes. It's people that are quite known in the industry. It's Karen McNeil. She was also featured in the movie Uncorked, if you are familiar with that. And I really like the idea, the mindset, the approach. It's about coming together, encouraging friends and colleagues. Come over, have a drink together. It starts in America, and maybe in 2 to 3 years, we will have it in Central Europe as well. Talking about trends in the industry, there's an article in the Daily Mail. Actually, I don't like the website that much because it's 80% advertisement and 20% information, but at least this article was super, super interesting and also a bit exciting. Usually, especially wine geeks, wine nerds, and snobby wine people, they hate wine in cans, in Tetra Paks, in bag-in-box, and they hate wine in kegs because usually it's not associated with quality, but it is, or at least it's meant to be easy drinking stuff. And there is no direct correlation between cheap, bad, crappy stuff and the wrapping in keg or in cans or whatever. You can use them as well for high quality wines. It's basically more about the function, about the usability, and especially for restaurants and also for retail, it's a super interesting model. And this article talks about the rise of kegs in gastronomy because, I mean, what is the main thing? On the one hand, the alternative packaging, such as kegs, canned wines and stuff, are expected to reach $312 billion in 8 years. And basically the good thing is there is no oxygen influence, it's sealed, and kegs are said to keep wine fresh for 3 months upon opening, and boxed wines are 6 weeks. And this is a really interesting fact for gastronomy because you don't have to open the bottle. There's no influence of oxygen. You can always serve the freshest version of the product you have in the packaging. And I mean, there won't be DRC or Grand Cru from Bordeaux in this packaging, but you can have your favorite everyday wine in a restaurant, in a bar, in one of those things. And it is a market, not only in the UK, internationally, also in the US, in California. I mean, there's cans everywhere. And I'm not only talking about alcohol-free stuff. I made this reel on a Pinot Noir from the can. I mean, of course, it's made for immediate drinking, easy drinking, like just, enjoy a chilled bottle of a chilled can in that case of a red wine or a white or even a sparkling. Why not? I mean, this is always like this romantic picture in our head that wine always has to be in a bottle. It doesn't have to. And talking about other trends that are quite related with that, Gen Z is getting more into wine, and they are discovering that it is a good idea to drink less but better. Because probably they are listening to the podcast, I don't know. But at least we are discovering that they have wine raves. They even try to get into wine without being snobby. There's so many influencers on TikTok that have, 22, 23 years, and they're talking about wine like it's a nice thing. They talk about the history, they talk about the companies behind the origin, the soil, but not in a snobby way, but always with that connection to enjoyment. And I love that. And of course, there is this health focus also driving less but better, or maybe even nothing at all. And this article, it's a quite long article actually, and there is many examples of influencers internationally, also belonging to Generation Z and talking about wine in a good, in an interesting, and in a more trendy and not old-fashioned way, like chilled reds, for example. Put them like in the fridge and drink them with 10 or 12 degrees. The Nouveau wine rave. Yeah, you have a wine rave. You drink your wine, enjoy it, and you just dance with each other, have a glass of wine. Really uncomplicated. Let's put it like this. There is this female influencer who talks about the facts why she loves, the reasons why she loves natural wines, and there's many examples in the article. And there's even this guy, actually I quite like him, Rien sans plein is his name, Rien sans pain. Link is in the show notes, guys. It's just a French expression. And he always gives history and company information and also soil information on the wines he drinks. And it makes wine as a product so much more approachable. It shows another side of wine, which I really like, because this snobby side of wine, I mean, it should exist, and in my opinion, it has to exist as well, but it's not dominating. It shouldn't dominate the industry, wine itself as a product. Wine should be approachable, guys, and we always forget that 80% of wine is entry-level stuff, just to be enjoyed, of course, sometimes also for binge drinking, but drink less but better could also work with a wine in a keg, with a red wine from the fridge, or with a wine in a can. Why not? Open-minded, guys. Be open-minded. The trend of drinking less but better is not only driven by Generation Z, which is more interested in a healthier lifestyle. The WHO, the World Health Organization, is also a big driver of everything that especially gives influence through social media and traditional media, because they said there's no safe amount of alcohol. We talked about that. And right now, even Germany is following this recommendation. Let's put it like that, recommendation. The German Nutrition Society recommends avoiding alcohol at all. This is why they always had studies, they followed the WHO, and they said there is no safe amount of alcohol, so they definitely recommend to not drink at all. It's an interesting sign as a country. I guess they won't set up rules for stuff like that. It will always be a recommendation, but at least we are all figuring out that alcohol is a thing for our health. There is also an article from Mixology that was quite interesting actually, where a person talked about the balance between not drinking at all and enjoying life. And when we talk about having a good life, it's always about having fun with things that sometimes might be not super good for you. And I'm not only talking about taking substances you maybe should not do. We also talk about things that could be dangerous, for example. And in that article, he says that this should be a part of life to keep it exciting, to keep it worth of living. And we all should find this balance in between, let's say, a healthy lifestyle and a life that you can look back to when you're 80 or so without regrets. And this is very important. And this is why I always say, drink less, but better. Following trends such as saying no to alcohol, I would ask the question, is the next news another nail in the coffin for English pubs? Because the government in the UK is planning to ban smoking in pub gardens, in open spaces, in nightclubs, and beer pubs even. It's basically based on studies they had that there is a huge amount of people smoking that work in gastronomy. There is many complaints of customers that say, even though that you removed smoking cigarettes from restaurants and from bars, at least inside, people are standing right in front of the building smoking, and we are still affected by stuff like that. Yeah, this is one side. So people would be quite happy with banning smoking from public places, such as public gardens and stuff. And on the other side, it could be really bad news for hospitality. And there have been news over the last 2 to 3 years. Many pubs were closing, not only due to Corona, also due to other things that were happening in Ireland and in the UK. And the decline is still there. I read an article about almost 5,000 pubs that have been closed down over the last 20 years just in Ireland. And that gastronomy, hospitality is suffering a lot, and this could contribute even more to that. The main reasons for that is statistics saying that there is 6.4 million people still smoking in the UK, and you basically ban them from your restaurant, from your bar and stuff. And for me, this is a bit too heavy, the argumentation, because, I mean, if you want to have a nice dinner, and it's forbidden everywhere, you smoke your cigarette before you go to the restaurant, then you have a nice dinner, and then you pay your bill, and then you smoke when you left. I don't know if this is, like hindering consumers to come to your restaurant because it's not allowed everywhere then. Or maybe there is dinner clubs where you're allowed by definition or so. I have no clue, but basically, for me personally, it is a good idea because it's not only about banning smoking to not be affected by it in a bad way. If you like eating, if you enjoy meals and drinks, just the smell of cigarettes also influences the way you taste and the way you smell your food and your drinks. I mean, we could open the discussion if then we should also ban perfume. At least for wine tastings, this is always my recommendation. No coffee, no cigarettes, and no perfume. And then you would get the best out of your tastings because there is no influence except the one that is coming out of the glass. Talking about bans, another really interesting news this week from the Ryanair CEO. And if you don't know him, Michael O'Leary, he's quite a crazy guy. And there have been many announcements of him over the last 20 to 30 years that were actually quite crazy. A summary is at the end of this article. During his 30 years as a Ryanair CEO, he came up with a number of ideas. For example, he wanted to remove the toilets on Ryanair. He wanted to get or to have standing people on the plane selling tickets for €1 because he says, I will definitely fill up the plane, and just for like the small, short domestic flights, it could be a big option. Having passengers loading their own luggage, also quite funny, and getting rid of the co-pilot. Just about everything about saving money. And right now, he came up with another, I won't say idea, but a suggestion. He calls for drink limits at airports. And the main reason for that is that recently Ryanair struggled with many problems caused by drunk people on planes. There was even one plane that has to turn around because there was a person with a bad behavior on board. And I mean, when you think about Ryanair, what usually comes to mind is that they are carrying people for a very small amount of money on the ticket from metropole cities, or at least the airports of the cities that are usually located between 50 and 100 kilometers away of the metropole city, to locations such as Ibiza, Mallorca, where you usually fly to get drunk. And if you want to get hammered on your holidays, you usually start at the airport. We talked about that. The airport pint is a really big thing, especially in the UK. And he right now calls for a limit of a maximum of 2 drinks because there were so many problems. And the funny thing about that is not that he asks for this, because it could be a thing. It could also be very interesting, not only for the industry, but also for the people who are flying. It could have a positive, but it could also have a negative effect. No, the thing is that he also said things such as, if drink sales are falling off, we get the pilots to engineer a bit of turbulence. That usually spikes our sales. And there is also still the rule on board of Ryanair, if you order a whiskey, you can double it and get a discount. So a bit of a controversy over here, but it's also interesting that he wants to follow those incidents and maybe the customer complaints about drunk people on planes. Talking about planes, a very exciting news from the Emirates. Emirates is one of the high quality airlines on the planet, and we talked about them and their huge wine cellar of rare wines, of rare vintages, old wines, and quite expensive bottles actually. And what they are doing right now, they launched a program. It's called L'Art du Vin, so the art of wine, an educational program for the cabin crew, for the cabin staff. We talk about 22,000 people worldwide working in either business class or first class, serving high quality wines to customers. And they will be trained on high quality, expensive wines. This is super interesting. Unfortunately, it wasn't my idea to train them, but it could have been. And I really, really like the idea. And as far as we know from statistics, it's getting more important than ever that you have people who know what they're talking about when it comes to wine recommendations, not only on airplanes, also in shops, in restaurants, because it's about people's connection. We need trust more than everything else to buy stuff, to rely on stuff. And if we have the feeling that we can trust, that we can rely on the person in front of us when it comes to recommendations, we are more likely to buy, or at least to try stuff. And this accounts for retail, for special retail, for restaurants, and also for airplanes, because it's still the same people. And the idea of launching such a program is absolutely amazing, especially when I have a wine cellar like this. They have already trained 1,000 people and 21,000 are still to come. It's just amazing. Doing something different is currently happening at Grand Chai de France. Grand Chai de France, GCF, is a huge company operating in Europe, and they have launched a Beaujolais Nouveau. That Beaujolais Nouveau is a very young, very fresh red, a fizzy red from France that is usually launched already in November of the same year that it has been harvested in. And it is launched in a lemonade bottle. And so the swing top closure, like some beer bottles you might know, for example, from Germany. And this is super funny because on the one hand, it attracts younger customers. And I mean, look at the branding. It's fresh, it's exciting, it looks like modern, new, and it is focused on Gen Z, I guess. And especially with the swing closure, you also have the pop when you open the bottle. It's just like popping a champagne, but in a different way. And it's constructed in a way that you can seal the bottle again. So you can just transport the bottle. You can have a picnic and then take the bottle somewhere else and drink the rest of it. And Beaujolais Nouveau is a fresh, fruity, slightly fizzy wine. So I did some research on how much pressure such a closure can hold. And usually they say it's recommended up to 3 or 4 bars. And Beaujolais Nouveau usually is a slightly fizzy, almost still red wine produced by something called carbonic maceration, where you have at least maybe 1.3 or 1.5 bar of pressure CO2. So this capsule works perfect with that. And I mean, Grand Chai de France is quite famous for trying stuff, having different brands, and quite an attractive labeling as well. There is a quite famous brand called Hans Bear, with a bear riding a bike. And this is another move into the market with the swing stopper. And I don't know if I would try this stuff because it's not my style of wine, but I guess it will attract many new customers, as well as the ones that are already familiar with the products of Grand Chai de France. We're talking about big brands, and the next news is from Accolade. We talked about the deal between Pernod Ricard and Accolade Wines. Pernod is selling many of their wine brands to Accolade, and right now the boss of Accolade is the CEO is reported to quit his job after the merger announcement. And the reasons have not been published yet, but at least it's coincidence, I would say. Could it be coincidence? I don't know. That he will quit his job. He will step down. And I mean, when you read the news, usually it sounds like it's a bit constructed. We don't know the reasons, but he wants to focus on something newer, so I have no plan. Accolade chairman Ben Clark will assume the role as of September 2. We will stay with big brands, and the next block of this episode is focused on one big company. Treasury Wine Estates, one of the companies in Australia. They have reported 8% rise in profit over the last 6 months, which is quite big actually. If you remember, companies such as Havesco and LVMH reported a decline. Treasury Wine is up. Why is that? There has already been a focus on high quality premium wine, and 75% of the sales is premium. So Penfolds and the big premium wineries in the United States, and 25% is the rest of it. And they have been quite successful over the last 6 months, and they saw a rise, especially in the premium sector. And this is why they are, on the one hand, are investing in China. Penfolds is planning to open a Chinese winery. So they will plant vineyards, they will buy vineyards, and then they will produce a wine under the Penfolds brand in China. And I mean, Penfolds has always been big in China. There is already a brand that is correlated and running in China under the umbrella of Treasury Wine Estates, and they will focus even more on China. And after they have dropped the taxes in May, this is way easier right now, of course, also to export your wines again to China. Is it a good idea to focus, let's say, with a big percentage of your portfolio on China? I don't know. We already saw how this could pay out with COVID and those political issues. Nevertheless, they are investing big in China and will have a future Penfolds version in China as well. And secondly, Treasury announced that they are planning to sell their entry-level wine range. So the same move that Pernod Ricard did, for example, and one of them or two of them are the quite big and well-known brands Wolf Blass and Blossom Hill. So they can even focus more on premium wines. And I was a bit surprised that when they named the brands that they will keep, that one of those brands is 19 Crimes. And I mean, we have talked about 19 Crimes a lot. They do everything right in marketing. They know how to do that stuff. It will be and stay a part of the premium portfolio. And this is not focused on quality. When they talk about premium, it's usually about the retail price, and they sit around $15 plus on the shelf. So they are considered, especially 19 Crimes is considered as premium. And I mean, Penfolds, Wins, Squealing Pig, they all belong to the premium range, and this will be kept by Treasury Wine Estates, and the rest will be sold. And talking about 19 Crimes, brand new marketing strategy. They called out a wine snobbery wine list with a list of things you should do and you shouldn't. Pour canned wine into a glass. No, drink it from the can directly. Wipe the red wine glass stain off your lips, sip from the same spot of your glass, drink your white wine chilled, serve sweet wines. They say the temperature doesn't matter. You can have both of them either chilled or slightly under room temperature. The glass doesn't matter. You drink the wine out or even out of a can. Screw cap has nothing to do with low quality and a cork with high quality. A wine being aged doesn't automatically make it better. You can drink it whenever you want to enjoy it. And some wines are even made to be drunk right now, in that moment. And it's an interesting move again. It's more about inclusion. It's more about getting this easier access for many people to wine. Wine isn't snobby. It shouldn't have to be like that. So give it a chance, do something different, and enjoy your wine as you want to. And what I also liked is they included a list of wine people to avoid at a party. And it's 3 kind of personas. The wine bro. So this is the guy that is usually into natural wine, talking about natty wines, having this beanie and singing backwards with his tattoos and stuff, and talking crazy weird stuff and trying to differentiate from the normal sommeliers and waiters. Then you have the tablescaper, quite snobby wine person that is always talking about wine being highly sophisticated. Yeah, please do not arrive for the wine glass without a stem. Don't do so. They have specific feelings and thoughts about how wine has to be drunk. And the third person is called the classic. Tweed jacket, salmon trousers, ruddy nose and face. And he or she owns dogs that have jobs, such as gun dog. They believe that any wine innovation is bad, and they are only interested in drinking the biggest, boldest rats they can get on their hands. Yeah. So also, again, super smart marketing. It opens up new perspective. Of course, it also opens up discussions, causes some controversy, but nevertheless, again, I mean, I like 19 Crimes. You can write a book on the marketing strategies of 19 Crimes. It's just amazing, and it causes attention. And that's what it's made for. And last but not least, still a big brand, but kind of a mixture with the celebrity corner, the product of Lewis Hamilton, the non-alcoholic agave spirit called Almave, or Almave, however they call it in the US. A minority stake of this brand has been acquired by Pernod Ricard. So Pernod Ricard right now owns a small portion of Lewis Hamilton's brand, and they say this is why there is a huge potential, especially in non-alcoholic agave spirit alternatives. I mean, the agave product market is growing, tequila is growing, mezcal is growing, and there is a potential, and this could play a key role in sales over the next years. And we're not only talking about this stuff, they also talk about RTD products in cans, cocktails, alcohol and without alcohol. So Pernod Ricard, once again, focus on quality. I mean, it's Lewis Hamilton. It's not super expensive, but it sits at, I guess, $50, if I remember it correctly, on the shelves. And right now, Pernod Ricard is part of that brand. This was it, guys. A quite fast ride through this week's news in the wine industry and in the drinks industry. 40 minutes. Thanks for listening. If you like what you hear, recommend this podcast to a friend. If you have any further questions, let me know. podcast@pinotpixel.com. And right now, happy weekend. See you on Wednesday. Ciao, ciao.